Okay. Yeah.
Erev everyone. In Moshe Rabbeinu's review here in Parshas Dvarim, so he asserts that Vayom Hashem Eloi, the Lord said to me, so to speak, Rav lachem sheves b'hor hazeh. It's enough that the time that you have spent now here at Har Sinai, at Har Chorev, Tnu u'su lachem, turn around and travel, go to Eretz Yisrael now. So the Meforshim here wonder why does he need a tzivui from the Rabbanu Shalom to leave Har Sinai? Rashi quotes the famous Medrash that the people who witnessed the revelation at Sinai were so awestruck and so frightened by it that they ran away. And it says, Ketina kaboreach libeit ha-sefer. Like the last day of school, you know. They ran away. So if they're running away from Har Sinai, why does the Rebbeinu Shalom have to tell them to leave Har Sinai and to travel in the desert towards Eretz Yisrael? So many Meforshim say that there are different sections of the Jewish people. There was a section that was Kitino Kaboreach Mibeis HaSefer. There was a section that fled. They ran away. But there was a section of the people that wanted to remain at Har Sinai. You know, they never wanted to leave, because that was the peak of holy revelation that human beings could have. And they were Makalei HaTorah. Moshe came down and started to teach them the Torah Sheba'al Peh. So they wanted to stay. They didn't want to, so to speak, go back to what was considered before a normal life after having the abnormal experience that Har Sinai provided for them. And that is a trait that exists among certain sections of the Jewish people till today. Not only Jewish people, generally in the world. There are people who never leave school. They are the eternal student. And they don't want to have anything to do with the practical world, so to speak. They want to live a life of study and academics, and lahavdil, you find that regarding Torah as well. And that's what David HaMelech said in Tehillim that we're so accustomed to, as Shifti V'Veis Hashem Kol Yemei Chaya. He wants to sit in Kollel his entire life. Lachzos b'noam Hashem, because there I can see the pleasantness of the Rabbanu Shalom, the revelation, the exaltation that Sinai brought. and I'm in the palace of the king. If you're in the palace of the king, you don't want to leave easily. So there are different reactions to Har Sinai. So there was a reaction of Tinuk HaBoreach Bebeis HaSefer, of those who wanted to flee, and there was a reaction of those that wanted to stay permanently. So the Rebbeinu Shalom Kaviyachal tells Moshe that they have to leave, but they have to leave with a purpose. Tinuk HaBoreach Bebeis HaSefer is a purposeless fleeing. It's not that you're going somewhere, you're running from something. You're escaping. So that many times is very negative because of the fact that a person really can never escape one's own self or one's own problems. I remember that someone that I knew once took a trip around the world, literally 4 months. He came back. And I asked him, actually a trip around the world costs some money, whether he enjoyed himself. He said no, and he said not 1 minute. And I said, why? And he said, all of my problems took the trip with me. You know, we can go on vacation physically, but it's very hard to do so emotionally or mentally, because all of our problems and difficulties, so to speak, go with us. They also are on the same vacation trip. So the Rebbeinu Shalom set a goal. The goal was Eretz Yisrael. They were going to conquer the land, they were going to settle it, they were going to establish there, the tribes to live there. Practical goal. So that it would not be only that they are fleeing from something, but rather they are heading towards something. They are going towards the goal that the Rebbeinu Shalom set for them to fulfill the promise that he made to the Ohos. Now, there were those that wanted to stay. So the Rebbeinu Shalom said, no, they also have to go. The entire society requires scholars, people that stay at Sinai, but they have to be part of the klal. They cannot be separated from the klal. And because of that, therefore, they also have to Pnu lachem hamidbara. So you have to go out in the desert. That's the desert is figurative and literal. You know, the Bali Musar said, it says by Yaakov and Esav, V'neach yotza Yaakov meis Yitzchok Aviv, V'ne Esav bo min hasodeh. Yaakov Avinu just walked out the door, in Yiddish they say, and the ganze Esav fell on him already. And that is true. If you leave, so then the whole Esav falls on you. So how do we contend with that? So that's why it says that it's a midbar. It's a desert. It's a desolate place. But you have to be able to contend with it. You have to be able to survive it and prosper in it. It's part of the special relationship that the Torah gives us to be able to be successful. And therefore that became a common denominator for all of the sections of the Jewish people. For those that were fleeing, those that were running away, those who said, we don't want to hear any more Kaviyachal from the Rabbanu Shalom. It's enough that we hear it from Moshe. It's hard to imagine, but it's not that difficult really. The people who, so to speak, heard Kaviyachal, heaven itself speak to them, they said, we don't want that anymore. We don't want that contest. It's too much for us. You talk to us. We can't deal with it. So the experience at Sinai was a mixed one. It was the greatest moment. It was the most frightening moment. It was a moment that people wanted to flee from. And it was a moment that people didn't want to ever leave. And that became the makeup, so to speak, of the Jewish people in the time of Yoshua and the Shoftim, when they were still under the influence of Moshe Rabbeinu, and yet at the very same time they worship idols. The entire internal structure of the Jewish people broke down. The tribes warred with each other for the unity of purpose. So how did that happen? The answer is that happened from the beginning. When it was put to the test, so to speak, of Eretz Yisrael, then all of the weaknesses that existed before became apparent and intensified instead of diminished, and they did not disappear. To a certain extent, without my being a social commentator, God forbid. But we see that here today in our society as well. All of the cracks in the Jewish world are from the 18th and 19th centuries. They didn't happen here. Nothing new has happened there. In fact, in many respects, it's much better now than it was then. But that's only if you look at it with a certain viewpoint. But Eretz Yisrael brings with it everything that went before. It's not, there's no such thing as a new beginning without incorporating, it's like, again, when I mentioned going on vacation, you take all the problems with it. So the whole exile is here with us. All of the different ideas and viewpoints and all of the bitterness that accompanied it. So Moshe Rabbeinu warns us of this in this week's parsha. He says, the Rabbanu Shalom says to travel, go to Eretz Yisrael. But Moshe Rabbeinu warns them that they're bringing all the baggage with them. You know, you get off the plane at Ben Gurion Airport, there's no end to the luggage that comes off. No end. So that's the metaphor for the exile. The exile, we all brought the luggage with us. And therefore that has to be worked through. So in the time of the Shoftim, it took 350 years to work through it, which is a long time. but nevertheless the process worked. So we hope that, God willing, our process will also work. But we have to realize that this is where we are coming from, so to speak, and that this therefore colors everything that occurs. And if we see it in this light, in this perspective, I think it becomes it's not easier to deal with, at least less depressing for us, because we've been in this scenario before. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashia Omer, Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Zakas Yisrael, v'Fichal Chibur Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar, Adonai Chafetz Aman Tzidko, Yagdil Torah v'Yadir.